Alright there, Haas. Welcome back, and in this video we are going to be learning how to make templates. Now, a template is probably exactly what you're thinking about. So if you just go online on Google and type in like shopping template or blog template or I don't know, whatever template you're looking for, basically what they are these generic HTML documents with a bunch of dummy data in it. So if you're looking for like a store template, it would have like a dummy item and it would have a heading that says put title here, put item description here, yada yada, tomato tomato. So the reason that we use those templates in Django is because it allows us to pretty much separate our HTML from our back end stuff. And that way you can have a web designer and you can say, all right, make me a structure for, the homepage or the album detail view. And they can just make something generic and we can have that in one file. And then later on, we can go and fill in all the information we want to, such as put in the actual album title, where it's supposed to be, so on and so forth. So if it sounds confusing, once I set it up, you guys are gonna be like, oh, that actually is not that confusing, and it's very useful. So actually, let me go ahead and delete all of this HTML and code because that's what we're trying to avoid. And all right. So the first things first, anytime you want to work with templates in Django, just go ahead and write from the Django and template import loader. So we're going to make this template a separate file and we basically need to load it in. So load files, whatever. All right, now where do I want to stick this? How about under here? All right. So I'm just going to make a variable for our template whenever we load it in, and that is loader.getTemplate. And wow, we didn't even create a folder for templates yet, so might as well, should probably do that. And let me just go ahead, in this video I'm going to create a template for this homepage, and it's going to be the most boring template you've ever seen, but this is where you put it. Who is texting me? Someone's calling me from Evans Mills. Evans Mills is this crappy town next to me, and there is literally nothing there, so it's kind of scaring me right now. All right. So the convention is in your app's root directory, go ahead and right-click and make a folder called templates. Now, you can actually change this in your settings, but this is kind of standard convention. And also, another thing that you do is you actually right-click this and make a new subdirectory with the same name as your app. So music, right in there. Now in here is actually where you put all of your HTML files. So again, I'm just making this for the home page. So I'm gonna name it index. And do I want to add it to Git? Sure, why not? All right. So this is actually the thing that's just gonna return the HTML, just like we have been doing. So let me go ahead and make a really sweet template right now. And it's gonna be really leaving me messages, huh? All right. So for each album, we'll just have it as a list item instead of just having line breaks. So we'll just say list item, and then of course we need a link. So href, and then your URL goes there, and then the album, I'll say album title here. All right, so this is the most boring template you will ever see in your life, but this is basically what it is. So our front-end developer or designer is going to give us something like this. Hopefully it's a little bit better, unless they want to get fired. And then we have to plug in all of the pieces. So let's go back into our view and figure out how the heck to do that. Well, the first thing we're going to do is for this variable right here, we're actually going to need to load in this template file. So that is in the music directory and index.html. Now again, the reason that we don't write templates /music/HTML is, again, by default, Django is already set up to look in a directory called templates in your apps directory. So make sure that you have that set up correctly. And now this template variable is a reference to this file. Pretty cool. So the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to create a dictionary. So whenever we pass this album information into our template, we pass it through a dictionary, and most people name this context. You can actually name it anything you want, but it's kind of the standard. It basically means information that your template needs. So You can also name these name and value pairs anything you want, but I always keep them the same as just whatever I'm using in my Python code. Makes it really easy. So all albums is just equal to all albums. There you go. So of course, the rules don't change. Whenever you have a view, you need to return something. And that is whenever we, analyze everything and plug in our data, we're going to return this finalized template. So how do we write that? If we just go to template, render, inside this render function, go context and always pass in your request. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to pass this information into our template. We're going to put all the pieces exactly where we need to be. And then this is pretty much going to get converted to final HTML that we're going to return to the user. So now what we can do is we can hop in our template now that everything is good to go right here and start plugging in those pieces. So all we have to do is say, okay, the music/ID goes here, the album title goes here, and we need to make a little loop so it loops through each one and just doesn't display one album. So here is the special syntax that you use whenever you're using kind of Django in an HTML document. Whenever you are using, kind of think of it like Python code, you use something like this. All right, so you surround your code with squiggly bracket, %, squiggly bracket. So since we're going to want to loop through each album in, what was the list? All albums. We're going to write something like this. For album in all albums, and then anytime you want to end your for loop, you do the same. So, and just write end for. So again, all kind of, I want to say it, Django code is going to go in these special symbols. Now, there's one exception, and that is whenever you're using plain variables. So for example, in this href, remember, the structure for this was music / the item's ID. Now this ID is actually album variable, an album attribute. So that's going to need to be a variable as well. So you see it already auto-completed for me. So I'll just say album.id. And that's it. That's all you need to know about working with templates. Anytime you have Python code, then it goes in between these symbols. Anytime you're working with variables that you can just display as is, they go in between double squiggly, either left or right or beginning or ending, whatever you want to call it. So that looks good. And also we need to have a variable for this title as well. So we can just copy this. And instead of ID, it is just album title. I think that was the attribute name. And all right, mate, looking good, I think. All right, so now let's go ahead and refresh our page and check it out. And we know that it works because they are no longer just plain links before. They are now part of an unordered list. And we could see that everything worked correctly, and we can click those. Looking sweet. Now, one other thing that you may want to do, and this is just kind of bonus, is before you display this list, you just want to make sure that you have some albums to display. So maybe the user didn't add any albums yet. Instead of just displaying an empty list, then they're going to be like, is the website broken? We just may want to have a pop-up that says no albums are available, or hey, add some albums to your list, or whatever. So in order to do that, let me go ahead and indent this. All right, so we need a if-else statement. So again, these special symbols right here, since it's kind of Python code, and in order to check if they have items in their albums, we'll just say if all albums. So this is going to be true as long as they have at least one album. So if they have albums, then we can go ahead and display this code. And now to make an else statement, else what are we going to display if they don't have any albums? I'll just say, let me put like heading 3. No or say you don't have any albums. And actually, whenever you have if else, you need to end it with an end if, and that's just so Django knows where it's supposed to stop analyzing. So end if, and there you go. So whenever we look at this, since we do have albums, it should be the same. But if ever anyone was looking at this and they didn't, then they would see this little indicator, and that way they just don't have a blank screen and is like, supposed to see something here or not? What's going on? All right, so there you go. That is basically how you use a template, how your front-end developer can give you, the core blueprint of a web page, and you can go in and pretty much plug in all the information that you need. And again, if it's kind of overwhelming, if we do like one other one, then it's going to stick in your brain easy peasy. So thank you guys for watching. I will smell you next time.